I'm Cara AnnMarie. I play Sue in Cobra Kai, and you're listening to Cobra Kai Kompanion. If you're here because of what happened at last year's championship, I can assure you we've hired an entirely new food vendor.
Welcome to another episode of Cobra Kai Kompanion, and I am Peter, also host of Podstalgic. Today's episode is another interview. This one is with Cara AnnMarie, who plays Sue, the board member of the All Valley Karate Tournament Committee. She talks about some previous work she has done, including Liberty's Secret, which is a political satire and a musical, and also about a couple different, maybe not quite deleted scenes, but some things that were cut from the scenes that she was in, to include one with Billy Zabka in episode 7, the All Valley, and also the season 1 finale at the tournament. So some really cool insight and nuggets from this interview, which I'm very excited for you guys to hear. And here it is.
Hello?
Hello, Miss Cara?
Yes.
Hi.
Is this Peter?
It is. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm pumped to chat with you.
Well, let's jump into it and let's learn a little bit about yourself. I did find out that you have a theater and voice degree. When did you get into? When did you find out that you had this passion for music and theatrics?
Kind of really young. I grew up in Chelsea, Michigan, which is actually a very artistic community. Jeff Daniels is from there, and he has a beautiful theater in Chelsea, and the high school and the schools are very art focused. So I was super lucky from a young age to have access to audition for really great choirs and musicals and get into plays. And so I kind of started, even when I was in high school, I was doing a lot of theater and singing and dancing. And then I got into the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and they have a beautiful music program. So I started out actually getting an opera degree, and so very classical voice. And then as I got maybe a year into it, I realized I was more drawn towards musical theater. So I added the theater component onto my degree at the university. And then once I graduated, I kind of, the first decade of my career, I would say, was just doing musical theater, singing and dancing, doing choral tours, regional theater, just different tours that travel the United States. So, and I really love it. And then it's actually only been the last couple years that I've kind of hopped over to doing on-camera work. I was really I wasn't auditioning for it. And then I was living in New York City at that point and was kind of just kicking around doing theater. And then I started to audition for commercials and realized like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's just like a different aspect of my theater degree. And then I started getting some indie films, and that kind of led me to getting different agents, and you sort of just keep moving forward. And but I've loved working on camera. It's a way more intimate setting, I think, than theater. Theater's very presentational, very big, and on camera work's very intimate and personal. And I've really just enjoyed getting kind of to know that process better, and it's been really exciting for me.
Yeah, I bet you it's quite different, in the terms of the setting, because I've talked to a number of the cast members who have done stage as well. I remember speaking with Hannah Keppel, who played Moon, and we were just talking about how on stage there's just a very small margin of error, whereas
sure.
In front of the camera you can do different takes and stuff.
You can keep, that's actually a real gift. It's so funny that you mentioned Hannah, because I actually spoke with her dad for a while when they were, we were all on set together, because he had found out I had a pretty long musical theater background, and I had a lot in common with Hannah. So he was really just curious kind of how I navigated both things. And it was super nice family. And this is such an exciting, and she was so beautiful in the show. It's such an exciting thing that this is kind of really launched her on camera, I think, at such a young age. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I was so surprised to find out how young she really was and how involved in different things like the March for Our Lives, in, in Asheville, North Carolina, I believe it was. But what were some stage plays that you were involved with when you were doing that?
Okay, so I did Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella. I played Cinderella 3 times.
Wow, one of my favorites. Love it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And so I really, because I come from a more legitimate vocal background, I get a lot of, like, I did Christine and Phantom regionally. I've done State Fair. I've done Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, like very traditional.
Oh, so has Hannah. She's played Dorothy.
Theater.
14.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, awesome. Yeah. It's so, it's just a kind of escape world when you're living in that world. So, it's been a couple years since I've been auditioning, but I was just practicing vocally earlier today, getting ready for some Christmas stuff that I have coming up to sing for the holidays. And I was just thinking, like, I want to get back into, maybe get back on stage and kind of find a better balance of being on camera and being on stage would be a great balance to hit.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it was only just a couple of years ago that you started getting into, like filming. What made you decide to do that? Did you feel like you kind of fulfilled the wanting to be on stage and then try something different, or?
I did. I was getting, I just wanted to change, I was getting that, just sometimes that you can get into shows and it's kind of a longer run and you're doing the same show for months on end sometimes. And I kind of just had gotten to a place where I really just wanted to try out something new for a little bit. But then once I had a little taste of it, I really enjoyed it and kind of felt like, oh, what is this new thing that's
it's
fun
a new shiny toy.
Different. I have to. Yeah, exactly. And that was definitely what happened. And now I think you can play with all the toys probably. Like you can, sometimes hop on stage and sometimes be working on camera and I can do all of these things as well. And then just find a balance, but it's been really fun. That's actually, you had brought up Liberty's Secret. And so there I actually had such an interesting combination of all of these things. Liberty's Secret was a full-length feature film that was a completely original movie musical, which I did about 2 or 3 years ago. And it was actually a professor at the University of Michigan had written a Girl Meets Girl movie musical, and it's a political satire. All of the music is original composition that he wrote. He directed it and wrote everything, and it's on Amazon. It toured through some festivals. We went to the Ojai Film Festival with it. And it was such a cool thing to be taking what I had been doing and bringing it to what I'm currently doing. More people can be making musicals. I think that would be a gift.
Yeah. Liberty's Secret is definitely a project that I'm very much interested in. I'm actually, I'm a fan of musicals as well. I love like Mary Poppins and obviously your traditional Disney movies with all those songs. So when I saw, a trailer for Liberty's Secret, I think I even watched like a brief interview with, is it Andy Kirshner?
Yeah.
Kirshner. So,
Andy Kirshner.
Yeah. It was him and a woman who I don't believe I caught her name, but she said she was also like a choreographer, and I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Debbie Williams probably was a choreographer on it. Yeah.
Okay, could be her, but just what they had to say about the film and it being the political satire. That I didn't get the sense from that it was that from the trailer that I saw. Matter of fact, I think it was like a fan made music video, perhaps with one of the original songs, I think. And so when I saw that interview with him, I was like, oh, okay, that's even that's more interesting because I didn't know what your character was. So can you touch on a little bit about your character? Was it Nikki?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I play Nikki Levine, and she is she's involved in politics. She's kind of a political handler, handling like PR for a candidate that is really not doing well. They're out on kind of like a political tour, and they stop at a church, and a girl sings at the church, and they kind of get this idea that if they could bring her on board, and she's very popular and people kind of just fall in love with her, and if they could bring her as part of the campaign, it would really boost up his numbers. And so Nikki gets assigned to take liberty kind of around the country on this tour to promote our political candidate. And in the meantime, Liberty, who's kind of young and just kind of figuring herself out, they fall in love on the campaign trail. And she comes from a very religious, conservative background, and it sort of brings up all of this really beautiful conversation about love and marriage equality, and has a lot of funny moments in addition to really holding a mirror up to what it means to love and to have the right to marry, and to be a parent to someone that falls in love with someone of the same sex, and in addition to singing and dancing. It was really, everyone involved in it. It was so beautiful, and everyone really just believed in the message, and it was such a passion project for every single person working on it. And Andy had spent, I think, 8 years trying to get it made, and got a lot of funding from the University of Michigan. And I think after the fact, and so we went to the Ojai Film Festival. It did well in some international film festivals, I think in Germany as well. But the thing, I have developed these online relationships with just lovely friends that I have made who have fallen in love with the movie, and really just didn't have these kind of characters. They didn't have a movie that was just sweet and endearing and a musical and about them. And I guess I didn't, it wasn't something that I was aware of, that like, I think in Hollywood, this is a big conversation that's going on, is just the representation of everyone, whether that's race or, sexual preference or different, there's a lot of people living on this planet right now, and movies and film and television and theater can tell all of those stories because they all exist and they all are valid and important to understand each other, and to find more peace in the world, perhaps.
Yeah, no, again, I mentioned it sounds like something right up my alley. I'm very interested in it. Now, with your background, did you find the transition to doing something like that challenging at all? Or did that prepare you for that role?
I think when I did Liberty's Secret, I had been working on camera quite a bit more at that point. I think I definitely had a transition when I first started working on camera. I felt like, oh, okay, I need to take everything less theatrical, and there's a camera right here. But by the time I got to Liberty's Secret, to working on that, I had done a couple other things before that gave me a good amount of time on camera. So honestly, it didn't feel like it was that big of a transition, other than occasionally we dance, and occasionally the emotions heightened, and that encourages us to break into song. I think, if anything, for me, it felt very natural to combine the two at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was such a great experience. I hope you watch it.
Yeah. If I can, because I've also interviewed Matt Lewis, and there's a project.
Oh, I love Matt.
Yeah. He he was involved in something that I was very much interested in too. That's why I enjoyed doing the research, because how else would I know, what else you guys have done? And then so I often
Right.
find myself like, oh my God, I want to see that,
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
There was a movie on Elisa Cochran was also in. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so interesting. That sounds like an origin story to your character, Yasmin. And she's like, you're kind of right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's a great transition into Cobra Kai. So how did you come across the role of Sue? Do you have an agent that found that, or was it one of those
Yeah,
things Actors
totally.
Access, or?
No, my agent emailed me, and it's not that exciting of a story. He had emailed it to me, and I was kind of not sure what it was. You know what I mean? When I first read, like, oh, okay, Daniel, we're owns a car dealership. Like, that's kind of interesting, And I just submitted a tape and booked it off of the tape. So it was all very smooth and seamless, such a dream to, just get the sides, tape it, and kind of appear on set for the job. It was really wonderful. So at that point, though, we weren't sure we didn't know that we were in the finale until we got there and started working. At least for me. I don't know about the other guys that are the board members, Matt and Keith and Kurt, if they knew we were coming back for the finale. But we had that board meeting, that was basically the scene that we knew going into it. And then it expanded once we got on set to being the judges at the final tournament, which was so cool. Because one of the things that as I was kind of looking over that email, was thinking about, I had forgotten because I haven't been thinking back on it, but one of the coolest things to witness was we were sitting at that judges table for probably 5 days.
Oh, wow.
While they were shooting all of that finale choreography. So we had front row seats to, like, literally we're right there in the front row to watch that beautiful stunt choreography. To me, that was the first time I'd ever seen stunt choreography that close up, and to watch the double come in and then the actor come back in, and the amount of focus, and it was mind blowing. And I honestly walked away from season 1 and I said, like, I'm gonna get into karate. Like, I'm gonna learn how to do that. I was so inspired. I've yet to learn any karate, but who knows? Maybe there's still time. I was so blown away by that. So it was. I just auditioned for it and booked it, which was amazing. Anytime you have a new project to work on, it's just such a gift. And this was no different. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, to take a line from Sensei Lawrence, I mean, it's never too late to learn to kick ass.
Right. I love it. So, I've got it. Yeah, more of that for sure.
Do you have any backstory for Sue? Did they give you any kind of direction? Because what if Sue knew some karate and maybe that's why she's on the committee?
Peter, I would love it. So listen, because we didn't get a lot of backstory coming into it, but it's funny because we were actually on set a good amount in shooting that finale, and the 4 of us on the committee got on so well, we really ended up developing really nice relationships and friendships, the 4 of us, and kind of just naturally those humans, those characters came to life for us. I really think that Sue has had a karate experience and has children that are in karate, and that's how she got so heavily involved in the board. But I would certainly, I would be so excited to be doing some of my own stuff. That's certainly a story I've fantasized about happening, for sure.
Now, I am curious, you're in this, the boardroom, and Johnny Lawrence is sitting before you guys, and he's telling the story about John Kreese being dead, and Daniel's just like, oh, this is bullshit. So, like, the looks that you throw at Daniel and, like, kind of the tone, is there anything behind that? Because I feel that's very specific.
Well, I think for us, for me, he came in as such an underdog. And Sue, in my mind, was really hearing the banning and all of this stuff, such a surprise to me. So for him to respond so hostily, I felt like, where are you coming from? Like, this gentleman seems lovely and so charming.
Yeah.
And, a little bit of that, I have to be totally honest, Billy Zabka in real life is one of the most charming human beings.
Oh, yeah.
So I think a little bit of that carries over in, like, how could you ever? And of course, Ralph Macchio is very lovely as well. But in that context, it felt like, how could you ever, this isn't the way that we behave.
Right.
As a board.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to vote on everything. Everything's very political. What is all of this? He's speaking about, and he was such an underdog, and it was so hard to, obviously, you just want to take care of him. So that was for Sue. I felt like, oh, I just love him. I don't know why are you being so mean to him? I think he's fabulous, and he should get whatever he wants,
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoy that. I mean, I love the side eye that she just throws at Daniel. I mean, because he dismisses everything that Johnny's even saying. He's not hearing him out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was so fun though. Billy was, did want to improv some different stuff, and he had some really funny takes with my character as well, where he was kind of like flirting with her, and it was really lovely. That didn't make the cut.
Oh,
and I
no.
wish, we had kind of talked about it afterwards, that he was like, I wish it would, I hope they go with that take, because it was very, very funny.
What was it? Was it just a look or some lines?
He had said something about, so after I said, the community, could use more men like you, Mr. Lawrence. And he says, thank you, ma'am. And if I could speak with you separately after the meeting about something totally separate. And it was just so charming and sweet. And then Daniel said, this is bullshit. Because it was getting heightened and heightened and heightened, that the board loves Johnny, right? The board is just like, he's great, to heighten that comedy of like, how is this happening to Daniel? It was so, the whole thing was just so well written and so clever. And John and Dash and Hayden are smart and fun and open, I think, to ideas that are brought by the actors, or just to play around. One thing that I was going to mention is in the finale, I run onto the mat to tell Daryl that Ralph is going to coach Robbie,
right.
That Daniel's going to coach Robbie, and that was on the spot idea that I think John and Josh and Hayden had just on a lunch break. And we've been on set, for a number of days, and I was just kind of kicking around in the green room, and then they came in and said, like, hey, do you remember this moment where Allie runs onto the mats in the first movie? And I actually had to get on my phone and go look for that. I was a little panicked, like, what are you talking about? But then, of course, as you start seeing it, it's like, oh, right. And I was just totally honored to run on and have a little flashback to that moment in the first movie. Was super exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's a very not a pivotal moment, but definitely a memorable moment in the original movie.
Completely.
How familiar were you with the Karate Kid before signing on to Cobra Kai?
I mean, I'm a child of the 80s.
Yes.
So absolutely, it was a huge part of my childhood. I don't know if I should even say this. I didn't go back to rewatch it, honestly, because I felt like I wanted to just be new to what they were creating now. So I didn't go back to watch it. I don't know how many people fess up to that. But I do actually think, I've since watched it, I watched it after the fact again, but I did, I wanted just to come into it very openly and not have all of this attachment to the things that had taken place then. I kind of wanted to be a new character in their world that was fresh to who these men are now, as opposed to kind of throwing back to who they were younger, if that makes sense a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that Billy did some improving on his own. What about your part? Was there any improving, or everything was just right off the page?
I was pretty much right off the page. I had some lines in the finale that didn't make the cut. And I think we changed those around a little bit, but it was kind of like an odd angle. I was turning around and meeting the family, Ralph's family. So I really stuck pretty much to the page. I'm always happy to improvise, but I think sometimes you serve the purpose of just saying the lines that were given to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I've heard some fun stories of like deleted lines, deleted scenes, or shortened scenes that just didn't make the cut because it just, it didn't quite fit the narrative, though they were fun. But I think those are the stuff that, listeners would love to hear about and wish that we can also see eventually, hopefully on a Blu-ray.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was hoping they would do some sort of like outtake.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that is I was really pleased to see that. I hope, fans know. It was so beautiful to see really how, what a nice relationship Ralph and Billy have. They really enjoy each other and they've known each other most of their lives, I think. So it was beautiful to also watch just like how playful they are with each other and they get on great. And I think that really sets the tone for the whole set. It was just such a fun set to work on, and I could have sat there forever.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I had the pleasure of actually attending their panel here in Portland when they came to visit, and I got to meet them.
Cool.
Yeah, at their booths too, and so I see the playfulness, that they try to play up that rivalry, on the couch while Martin Kove is sitting there just kind of shaking his head. It's great. So I do envy you guys for sharing the set with them. So I wish I can see more of that stuff, the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, hopefully they can release some more.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're all crossing our fingers. And John Hurwitz has said on Twitter, that there's hope. So there's nothing definite, but he's hoping that eventually it will come to home release.
Yeah, very cool.
Are there any other like behind the scene tidbits that you can remember? You kind of mentioned like the running across the mat in the finale that was kind of added in. Was there anything else? Something that they cut perhaps that you remember seeing being shot?
We had a scene. It was kind of just in the background though, where we were giving out some of the awards, and that didn't make it in. Other than that, for us, I can't think, you saw really all of what we shot. In addition to, they added, I think, Keith as the announcer, Daryl. And then I came in and ran across, and we were the judges the whole time. And I can't think of anything else for us, because we really were kind of smaller characters, that I just hope that kind of you see again. I have tons of ideas. I would love to have some sort of reason to be back, and keep being involved, and playing with everyone would be just a dream.
Well, I mean, everyone's anticipating some sort of Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai. And if that is going to be true, and John Hurwitz has said as much, that there's going to be more ass kicking, I don't see why the committee wouldn't be in season 2. But what are some ideas that you have for Sue if she comes back in season 2?
Oh gosh. Well, I kind of had a little bit of a thought that maybe she's somehow connected to Martin Kove, like they're related, and so the committee was actually planted to, was like manipulated to work for Johnny a little bit. Like Martin Kove was kind of manipulating that.
Okay.
And Johnny just thought, like, that's one thing that I've kind of been playing around with. Or having some, like, she has a stronger karate background and she's more involved with the kids, or her own children appear and she's actually like hands-on at one of the dojos. I think that would be I'm saying that completely selfishly because I've already given away that I want to learn karate. I think it's so unbelievably cool. And I was so blown away by the whole thing. So if I get in any excuse that would motivate this, I think, or maybe I should just start training and it'll manifest it to coming to life.
It just might. It just might. Maybe
it just might. Yeah.
Do flip one of the producers, over and be like, "See, I've been training. Now you can write me me a scene."
Or there's like a musical episode. I'm not sure. There's a variety of things that I feel like bring me back. We can,
That would be great. That would be great. I would love
right?
some kind of Cobra Kai musical episode where Sue sings.
Oh my gosh, right? That's the only thing that's so goofy is I think I'm always trying to pitch a musical. Like no matter what I'm working on, I think like, what would be amazing? Next season should be a musical. Because I also, what I shot, it's come out more recently. I was in season 1 and season 2 of Detroiters on Comedy Central. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that show, but there a lot of the characters, the people that they've used do have musical theater or some sort of theater background. And I've thought like, oh, season 3 is a musical. I can feel it. I'm ready to break into song. I'm always pitching this idea.
Yeah, it's not something I'm familiar with, but I did see your reel being on that, and there was one clip that I saw that reminded me of like the board scene where you're in the center, with like 4 other men. Yeah, I did see that one.
I play an ad executive. I seem to have this thing. What's so funny is in real life, I'm dressed right now as like a 12-year-old boy. I have on like sneakers and sweatpants. But when I'm working, people seem to dress me so nicely. I'm like in a blouse and skirt and everything. But in my real life, I'm kind of just bumming around under the radar for sure.
Oh, we got to be comfortable when we're not working. So I can totally understand that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. That's the beautiful thing about a podcast. I could still be in my pajamas.
Yeah.
That's why podcasting is amazing. It's. I have so many podcasts that I'm obsessed with. So I'm thrilled to be able to be on today.
Well, we're definitely honored to have you come on. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah. As we get ready to wrap up here, what are something coming up that listeners can keep an eye out for that you're working on that you're allowed to say?
I've just been auditioning. Honestly, I don't have anything new coming out, but I've been flying all around. I was just in LA for a film audition, and I've been going back and forth from Atlanta to Chicago. For some different auditions and callbacks. So I'm just kind of waiting for the next thing. But as soon as it comes, I will certainly announce it on social media.
And that concludes my interview with Miss Cara AnnMarie. So I want to thank her again for coming on to the show and giving me the opportunity to speak with her. And after we had spoken, there was one thing that I forgot to bring up in our interview. It's about her company, Doggy Do Good. She runs a eco-friendly pet company, which strives to make their pets' carbon paw print smaller while donating a portion of all proceeds to animal rescue and no-kill shelters. So if you guys want to find out more about that, visit www.doggydogood.com, and I'll include the link in the show notes too for easier access. So I'd like to thank her again for that. And not only do I want to thank her, I want to thank all the listeners, all of you guys for supporting our show and interacting with us, whether it's on social media. Well, I guess it is on social media, but in the group page or Twitter or Instagram, getting a lot of love and new listeners as well. If you want to show us some love, please consider leaving an iTunes review, leave a star rating. That will really help us out. We've gotten a couple recently, but at the time of this recording, I want to save those for the next time I do something with Tom, so that way he gets to hear some of those amazing reviews as well. So if you are a new listener and you enjoyed this interview, please go back and check out some of the other interviews we've done. We've done interviews with cast members from Cobra Kai, but also we did a couple interviews with some previous cast members from the Karate Kid universe, to include Martin Kove and also Sean Kanan of the Karate Kid Part 3. So a lot of great interviews and a lot of great nuggets from everybody that's been on. It's definitely something for the hardcore fans. So give us a listen. So that's gonna do it, and I want to thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.